Greetings, this is another Sprocket video and today I'm going to show you some of my best creations so far. Now, I made a similar video about 5 months ago and as you might or might not guess, a lot of things can happen in 5 months. So let's see the new selection of vehicles I would consider to be the best I made so far. Alright, so let's start with a pair of honorable mentions. And these would be the tardigrade main battle tank and the tardigrade 2. Now, I have already reviewed these in this video specifically, so I'm not going to show them any further here in this video. You can just go watch the other one, so yeah. Alright, the actual first vehicle in this video is the HGS 101-5. So this is technically not a tank, although it is the closest thing to a tank which isn't one. So let's just say that this is a rather unique armored car of some sorts. So let's compare it with Jacob here. So let me put him on a level ground with the vehicle. And you can see that this thing is absolutely massive. It is an entire unit of measurement by itself. So yes, it is not a small car by any means, but that is for a good reason. It has a 90mm gun, although you could technically mount a 130mm gun on it with little to no modifications needed, so yeah, that is possible, I guess. Anyway, I'm going off topic already. So, the armor profile of this giant thing is not anything special, but it is more than nothing. So, on the hull front and turret, the thickest plates are 50mm thick, plus 35 on top of that here in the mantlet area, but that's only 85, so that's not much by any means. The sides are also 35mm thick, so that's not great either, and the rear can be easily penetrated, so who cares. Now, the thing with this one is that it's basically a World War II Centauro. It's about the same weight class too, at 24 tons, but this thing has a rather large 610 horsepower engine, which makes it rather great at its intended role of being a rapid response vehicle. That's why it's wheeled too, so it can just drive into position at super speeds and fire at enemies who have breached the front line. So yeah, that would be the main purpose of this vehicle. It's basically a defensive vehicle, like it's basically a wheeled tank destroyer, if I have to be honest. Basically like a Centauro again, with that comparison with the Italian Gladiator. And as you might expect from a wheeled vehicle in Sprocket, this thing turns rather slowly, so it isn't very agile by any means. It's quite a sitting cardboard box out in the open, but that's not really a big problem because this thing is kind of blessed with the 90mm gun it has in the turret, because let me just turn around and show you, which might take a couple more seconds. So as I started explaining, this thing has 12 degrees of gun depression, so on hills it has basically absolutely zero problems whatsoever. So yes, this is the HGS 101-5. It is actually one of my most effective tanks or armored cars in this case, although you might actually call it a tank for all I care. So it's the most effective vehicles I have ever made so far. Is just really good for some odd reason. Also, before I forget, you might have noticed the rangefinders I modeled for it, and the double coaxial machine guns, which are 13mm ones, like I usually put into my tanks. And also, regarding this tank, I also would need to show you this thing, which is actually the HGS 104-17, but you might recognize this turret from the previous armored car, because actually the whole idea behind the 104-17 is that it's two prototypes put together without any further thought. So the main prototype we are looking at here is the hull itself, which in my headcanon never received an actual purpose-built turret for it, and that's why it has a tank destroyer turret on top. Anyway, so the idea behind the hull is, what if we experimented with all-wheel drive and tried to perfect it? It has the previously mentioned 610 horsepower engine, and theoretically it can go on its wheels like a BT7, so yeah, that's kinda cool. And it has a 37mm gun mounted in its hull, which is quite stupid. And I mentioned that the turret was placed on top of it without any further thought, and let me brighten things up just a little bit so you can see what I meant by that. So if you wanted to enter the hull through the hatches, you just can't. You cannot turn the turret in any direction to let these hatches be opened. So yes, that is a purposeful design flaw on this prototype tank of some sorts. So yes, this thing also got a passing pension. So, before I want to show you the second design in this video, let's get sidetracked just a little bit. So if you remember what I have done in my previous video, you probably recognize this thing right here, the HGS 104-13. Now, the thing with this one is that up until this thing, I really haven't made a lot of oscillating turrets, and with the design of the oscillating turret this thing has, it kinda shows actually. So, when you think of an oscillating turret, you probably imagine one of the French designs, and this just does not look like any of them, and that's because I just kinda did my own thing here. And with the next tank I made right after, which is also an oscillating turreted medium tank, I wanted to change a few things, and what I have come up with is this. It is a completely different vehicle altogether, except for the gun and the engine. This is the HGS 104-15, and this is how it looked like quite a long while ago. And I basically kept most of the design features of the previous iteration of this vehicle, including the rather troll armor profile. So if you look at the turret, it's only 75mm thick, but it's angled at 65 degrees, which makes this turret quite bouncy, unless you have a really powerful gun, which you might have. But also you can just fire here, right in the mouth of the smiley face. I mean, look at the two machine guns, these are the eyes, and this is a big smile. So yes, this is a rather large weak point that's easy to hit, but I mean, why would I make it stronger? It's 50mm thick and it's basically unangled, so in order to make it less of a weak spot, I would need to increase the thickness of it by at least 4 to 5 times, and that's just stupid. That's not something that's worth doing whatsoever. Also, compared to the medium tank 13, this thing weighs quite a few tons less, while having a more reliable armor profile, and having the exact same engine and the exact same gun, except the gun has a slightly shorter reload rate. So yes, overall this is a straight up better vehicle than the AGS 104-13, and it has rangefinders modeled into it. But this thing is a bit odd because of the side profile. So the crew are pushed back towards the rear of the turret ring because of the extreme angle of the turret front. So the autoloader had to be pushed towards the back even more. And that results in quite an odd profile on the turret, but I mean, it works. There's no complaints on my part about this. And overall, I am extremely happy with how this thing turned out. Also, the shell ejection port, which is not present on the medium tank 13, is present on this one, which is a nice feature, I would say. So yes, the armor profile is quite strong, even with this quite good 105mm gun. I cannot really go through the turret. And even that, let me try to hit it, even that thing right there is actually quite thick at around 200mm. So yeah, even the whole weak spot is actually not that weak overall, I would say. So yes, this is the AGS 104-15, the 15th medium tank design I made. So yeah, alright. So the third and last design in this video is something you are already quite familiar with, since it is featured in the thumbnail of the video. So let's not wait any further. Let's meet the one, the only, the myth, the legend, the AGS 108-1 ballista. So let's take the view in. So despite being named after a medieval siege weapon, it has quite a lot more in common with the Hadron Particle Collider than with anything else. Not that it had anything in common with medieval siege weapons, but still, this is the new ballista main battle tank, if you can call it that, which you probably can't, because I mean, it is not a battle tank whatsoever, and I have good reasons to say that, because if you thought that these are pieces of add-on armor, you are naive. These are counterfeits, and for a very good reason. Let's describe the gun. 27mm with 5517mm long shells. And the entire bore, or the barrel of the vehicle's cannon, is 13.5 meters long, so it's considerable. And what this brings you is 181,000 meters per second shell velocity and 130,000 millimeters of penetration. This means two things for this tank, and first of all, I need to get some distance between me and this target. Alright, now that I have quite some distance in between me and the target, let's see just what these counterweights are attempting to balance. Yeah. Now let's see if I even managed to hit. Oh, and I did. Also, I aimed right around here, and the shell went here. That's because this thing is completely bugged. So the hydraulic suspension, which I stole from someone else, makes this thing a bit wonky. Alright, to demonstrate, let's use this decal right here. So I'm going to place it here. it shows up perfectly, everything is nice. However, if I turn to the other side, it does not show up perfectly. In fact, the middle line, the symmetry line of this thing is actually a bit wonky. It is not perfectly centered, and that caused me a lot of headaches when applying the decal for the headlights. That's when I figured out, oh wait, something is up. And probably that is the reason why the gun aims towards the right. It's mounted wrong. It's just mounted wrong. That's it. That's the end of the sentence. So, as you have seen, the ballista railgun tank is quite unusable. However, I made a more user-friendly version of it, and it is also called the AGS 108-1 ballista. However, I put it here, you can read it, low power output. By low power output, I still mean 130,000 meters per second shell velocity and 37,000 millimeters of penetration. But still, this is still a really great gun. But now you can actually use it. You can shoot broadside, you won't flip over, you still have 37,000 millimeters of penetration, which you will never need. And also the 13mm shell this thing fires does not do a lot of damage, but I mean, when you are guaranteed to pen something, do you really expect to do a lot of damage? At least fire at the damn thing multiple times. You know what I mean. It's kind of a weird balance factor, if I have to say so. So yes, this thing also has the weird rightwards tilting gun issue, but the hydropneumatic suspension makes most things worth it about this vehicle. And now it does not weigh 75 tons, it now weighs only 48. So it is a relatively quick thing with a laser gun, or a rail gun I should say, and it can just go through everything. So yes, it is not exactly a great fighting vehicle, but I mean, it's a prototype, so what do you expect? It's not really a thing designed for battles, it's just something to demonstrate the technology with. And it does that perfectly well. Also, if I have forgotten to show you, the outer shell of the unmanned turret is actually removable. So yes, that's kinda cool, I guess. And let's talk a bit about the design itself, because it's worth a bit of a mention. I never ever made anything like this. So you might have seen the tardigrade. It's still a main battle tank, but it's a very different style. So first things first, this thing is like the T-14 Armata, or the N-1 testbed vehicle for the unmanned turret, except this thing has the engine in the middle, and the shells are actually stored right here. The 27mm variant of the ballista also has the 5.5 long shells here. So yes, that's just a little bit of extra information. Anyway, so as I have said, I never really dealt with a design language like this, especially in regards to the unmanned turret, which is a completely new territory for me. I never really dipped my toes into the waters of unmanned turret designs, but I am somewhat happy with how this thing turned out. It has a 13mm coaxial machine gun, it has all of the bells and whistles, smoke grenade launchers. It looks kinda cool, I would say. Although again, I have little to no experience with turrets like these, especially in regards to railgun turrets. But still, I am relatively happy with how this wing has turned out. So yeah, anyway, thanks for paying attention. Comment down below what you think of these vehicle designs. So yeah, that's it, I guess.